I believe we all operate in cycles. On one end of the cycle, you're really productive. You accomplish like 3 times what you're normally doing in a day. You have a ton of willpower. You feel like life is manageable. And quite honestly, there's a lot of hope flowing through your veins. On the other end of the cycle, there's a lot of dread. You're super in your head. You're identifying a ton with your ego. You have a ton of anxiety, self doubt, and overall you're just super emotional. I noticed usually the way to trigger this cycle change is by doing something that is drastically relieving. Maybe you go on a hike, maybe you go away on a vacation. You have to change your environment. Maybe if you have some unhealthy coping habits, you go on a massive binge. Maybe it's alcohol, a ton of Netflix, maybe it's 4 different restaurants in 2 days. For a short period after the binge, the first few days, you feel really, really refreshed. Your productivity is arguably at the highest at this point. Your willpower to endure feels like it can stretch pretty damn far. Like you could take on quite a bit of AIDS. If your boss were to shit on you, you could probably deal with that. If your shitty coworker was an asshole, you could probably deal with that. At that point, it just seems like taking on life is doable after a binge or a reset, whatever you want to call it. But you will notice, and I guess this depends on the intensity of the reset, whether you go away on a vacation for a month or 2 days, the length or intensity of that reset of that vacation will determine how long its counter mentality will last. AKA the part of you that's feeling ready to go to deal with the bullshit and basically feeling refreshed, having a ton of willpower. You know this is a cycle because when you work really hard for an extended period of time, your body needs to take time to get back to a baseline functioning level where you're not so tired and burnt out. And after you go on a long vacation, maybe you felt this, your body feels like it's been itching to get back to the grind. It feels like it's ready to do some fucking work. Going back and forth with these cycles, these bouts of productivity lasting about a week, maybe less, maybe 4 or 5 days, followed by an intense amount of self doubt, lack of willpower, just getting super in my head and overall emotional, is honestly pretty fucking miserable. I recognize that the ideal scenario would be a more balanced lifestyle, and instead of these sorts of highs and lows and constant pendulum swings in terms of productivity and not being so in your head, the ideal thing would just be to have a baseline of putting out work and having, I guess, good coping habits to actually bring yourself back the next day instead of having to go on these extreme binges. But by doing things like playing video games, I can feel myself suppressing my emotions and turning off these parts of the brain, only to experience those same emotions that I was distracting myself from again way more intensely the next time around. Once I stop distracting myself. If you play video games for like 3, 4 days in a row and it is for long periods of time, maybe you're an absolute crackhead and you do like 8 hours one day, well, as the Italian folks say, forget about it. You're fucking cooked. You need 2 vacations at that point to reset and process your emotions because you've just been suppressing for so damn long. I've noticed video games is a big thing for me when it comes to actually reaching one of those ends of the cycle. Usually if I suppress my emotions like crazy with video games, I'll have to binge as the emotional suppression increases from things like video games, maybe alcohol, then your need to reset basically increases drastically because you're so overwhelmed with emotions you don't feel like you can handle regular life. And how do people reset? They use their drug of choice, whether it be fucking watching TV, whether it be food, whether it be weed, whether it be alcohol, whatever activity, maybe it's exercise if you can harness some positive sort of coping mechanism. I don't know if you ever noticed, but to further reinforce my point, gamers tend to be really fucking depressed all the time. And I believe that's because they're suppressing their emotional circuitry in their brain from these games by chasing in-game objectives and goals that stimulate parts of their brain which are responsible for things like reward. That is a very powerful distraction, let me tell you. I will leave you with this. It's a little bit sad, but maybe this will help you if you're going through these cycles of self-doubt. Once the people around you, perhaps it's your fucked up family, perhaps it's your fucked up partner, once they start getting in your head and making you focus on all the fucked up stuff and nothing but the negative, perhaps you could bring yourself back with this. And perhaps it could provide a little bit of stoic perspective to help keep us going, because life is fucking hard, let's be honest. If we can accept that life is really fucking hard, maybe we can approach it in a different manner. Like, yeah, life is going to be really difficult, and it is going to try to break me down at every single fucking point. If I can manage it, that's fucking great. If I have difficulty, that's also okay too. That's to be expected. It's okay to have bad days. Okay, this is what I want to leave you with. Let's say your brother is annoying you. Let's say your dad, who has dementia and is quite old, and you can watch him wither away every single day, never really tells you he loves you, never really allows you to have a conversation with him. Imagine you had a time machine, and the person who's making you feel really down, maybe it's your brother, maybe it's your parent, maybe it's the whole world as you know it. Imagine if you were 80 years old, and this was the only moment you could ever go back to, right now. That moment in time where you feel like shit and they are shitting on you. How would you go about that moment? The only experience that you will have when they are young and alive still is this moment. How would you want to remember and spend that moment? Would you want to continue to stay angry and resentful at them? Or would you be willing to look past and savor what you have left of them? Now, that's a really fucking difficult question to answer. I think once I detach all of the emotion away, even though these people might not be the healthiest for me, I think I still would want to express my love to them. Once we can peel back the ego and we can focus on the things that are important, the emotions and the ego, that's going to crush anything that we actually perceive as really important. Our dreams, our goals, our aspirations is going to keep us in that same exact place. And if you pay attention for it, the ego is basically responsible for this cycle that I'm discussing. It wants to keep you in that same exact place. If you focus on the negative, you're going to get lost in your head. Honestly, things fucking suck. Things are really fucking hard. All we can do is just try our best. We have to remember what's important. Don't get lost in the sauce, okay? Remember what we're trying to do here. Remember what the goal is. Don't let your emotions get in the way. If what's most important to you is telling your parent who is getting older that you love them, and it's really hard to love them, then honestly, maybe we just put it out there and it is what it is. That's all I had to say. I'm going to be a fucking sellout. Like this video if you got something from it. Comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and tell me what I should talk about in future videos if you'd like to see any specific topics. I'm open to your ideas, and I'll see you next time. Peace.